This is going to be a basic walkthrough on some JavaScript web app that I've built that's open source and posted on GitHub. What it is something you can download CSV files from your bank, like ASCII files, and you'll be able to kind of analyze them as you see fit. For example, like when you go to your bank to download a file, they have a couple of options. This would be the CSV ASCII file. It kind of looks like it's got a date, it's got a comma, then it's got a total. The negative would be an expense, the positive would be an income. And then of course it's got this asterisk here, another blank kind of set with nothing in it, and then of course it's got a string with a little bit of details about the purchase. And this is just some fake data I put together, and I put it all in May of 2022. So when I get into my fake data, obviously I've already put it to May 22, as you can see. Anyway, let's just kind of show you what's the big deal about this and why it's interesting. So I'm just going to get my fake data here. See, I'll just get it again. And then I'm going to import it. And so my expenses, let's see here. Let's go ahead and take out all the Amazons and make it a separate. So every Amazon, as you can see, I've clicked. And so now you can see all my Amazon listings for this month total up to $54.96, and it's 11.3 of my total spending. That's the difference of just kind of getting a general idea of what you're spending on something, or now I can know exactly. And this goes for the income too. If I had any listed, I would say, let's say hypothetically I had a dual income. I could see who is bringing in what specifically and percentage-wise. Now, I also have this thing kind of where you stood when you first started making the changes, so you can kind of compare. So now this list has 29.65, and the difference from the total is going to be here. So yeah. Basically, and then we kind of walk our way back in. So let's just, add Google to that as well. I mean, it could just, tally up to everything, all the streaming services. Now, obviously you can banks will let you download many months, if not a couple of years worth of stuff. So I've designed it to where you can kind of grab, whatever it is you need. And then when you want to clear it out, as you can see here, I have a button that basically clears it out, because this isn't using an API. I'm not storing this in a database. It's just getting cleared from your session storage, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, this is just a card game I was playing from the other day. It doesn't have anything to do with this. So anyway, I cleared out all the data for this app by listing this clear data. Now, here is the open source file, and there's not really much to it. It's static. That's why I'm hosting it here on GitHub. I've made it in React as well, but GitHub posts things. They host things. They're static for free, so that's why I have it here. And that's why I kind of downgraded it to not have React. It's just straight JavaScript. So let's get started with how it is done. This is just our date selector. It's going to know kind of where we're looking in our data. Obviously, I just kind of have to make it kind of real time as to have the list of what year it is, and then it can go from there. All right, so our functionality. These are all the items I'm going to need to get this thing kind of back and forth, because we're comparing. We're basically we have a list, and then we start clicking on things to build. From list A, we build out data B, a list B, and then we start comparing how much is the difference between the two. That's why we have things like amounts is listed as data A total and data B total. Same things as the labels. We'll be having to follow the same rules. Anyway, so this is just kind of the height and width. I'm not using this anymore, so I could probably take that out. But these are the chart options. The chart has to be kind of declared as a global concept, and then as you update it, it'll be easier to update as long as it's declared in global. globally. Okay, so clear data is that button I clicked that basically goes through and removes everything that says what kind of data you had, kind of resets it, clears all of our variables back, because since we're not using any APIs, it's really easy to just clear everything out. And the same thing here is prep for new data. It's something that I'm going to need to do to get it prepared. It runs through this list and kind of resets all of my variables. Apply values is when I finally get the revenue and the expenses, and I start basically taking them apart and seeing basically like what has the value of A and then what has the value of B. Anyway, so the get data is a really, as you can see, rather large function. It's going to ask you to clear out initially what we just spoke of, clear all our variables to 0. It's also going to keep doing this with the revenue and expense list of 0 as well. We do need to determine our year and our month. Then we actually will go down here to see if we have anything saved in our local storage. And so we run through some DOM elements, hiding and showing, and then from there we'll build out the length of data as long as it's comparable to the year and the month we requested, and that's where the ID comes in. And then from there we take that month information and we fire off the build object, which is nested inside this getData function. Here we're going to populate the revenue and expense list, apply the values that we just saw earlier, where they kind of define who has what, which A has so much and then B has so much. And then we start working through our labels and our amounts. So we basically just build out all of our information and we store it. So the building of the objects, this is an interesting one because this is what happens when, as you can see, I'm splitting up that fake data, as you can see here. Like I'm asking it to go through these and find places to go ahead and create a split. Now, every time there's a new line, it would be a /n, and I'm telling it split there. So it knows that that's a transaction based on the split of the line. And then it goes further into hunting down more of those splits and dicing and parsing until we build, as you can see here, I'm going to be building out my temporary object. I'm going to be separating out what this all looks like. And I'll tell you what the data actually looks like here. It's pretty cool. Let's go ahead and grab some of the data. Yeah, so as you can see here, this is how everything's being kind of worked out. And my data is right here. Interest payments, recurring payments. So it basically makes the ID of the year and the month, and then it tells me in the first bracket of it's going to be income, and the next bracket, it'll be expenses. So basically, that's kind of how that goes. I'm building out a piece of object, and then I separate it with my JavaScript. And when I've got it all figured out, there's a lot of kind of like hurry up and wait because it's JavaScript. So I'm saving things to my local storage. I'm telling it to hold out to make sure that I actually have that. And then I hire all these little elements start getting updated based on if I do or don't have the data. And then, of course, I call my get data that we just spoke of a minute ago. My handle on change is just as you can see, when I click and I try to read the file, this is going to determine what the file is. It says the element, and then, of course, since it's a typed file, best way to look at that. So, actually might be easier to do it this way. So, yeah, as you can see here, I'm telling it accept CSVs only, and this is type file. On handle change is when we're going to call it. So it asks me what that file is, and it says if that file's any good, let's go ahead and get ready to import, and we'll just allow this guy over here to be submitted. So we make sure that the type is correct. We file reader is called, and then we start reading our format. And then we're going to have an event where we load up our target result, which was our CSV data. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and start building out our objects. Or unless we already have the objects, then we should just do get data. Anyway, so what else we got? Build item lists. So, okay, so when I'm getting this stuff kind of put together, the build list items gets called when we're asking to view the data. So we went through and we build the list and we fire off the list. And we make sure the list has something in it by checking its length. And then we go ahead and give it apply a name to it. And we start building out our amounts. This is kind of the part here where we actually write out the buttons that you click on. And this would be the initial layout. The data A is on the left, the first one. So one quick thing I'd like to add, super tricky when you're adding buttons, if you need to put in a JavaScript function that has multiple parameters. I did it like this: function A, func A, and it's a string with a tick that tells me these are the parameters I want to pass with, or I'm sorry, these are the arguments I want to pass with my function, separate data. So I need to pass it the item name and the item amount and what list it's in. And this is will show up on the button. So as you can see, it shows up right there. And how to get these variables in there was tricky. So that's why I'm pointing that out, as to I inserted func A into the string once I had func A prepared. So note of that if you're going to be walking through this on yours. Let me see. So we've got through the separate data. Separate data actually is when you go through all that JSON and you find out what's A and what's B and you start comparing. Let's see here. When you start to actually get to the final end of it, we're going to render the chart, and then you do the update options. So the labels are always going to be the same. My option series is what's going to get updated. So options is kind of something that gets updated quite a bit. As you can see here, every time we make our comparison between, we click on something, all of a sudden we have to do all this function again. Now each list A and B has changed -1 or +1 based on what you did. And so this is where the calculations change, and then we update the object and the chart. And from here, these are something I brought in from my portfolio a long time ago. I just put these together. It's just utilizing the animation. So when you just roll over it, that's all. A little ta-da. And it's using a CSS, which is called animated. And as you can see here, there's just my logo. It's going to my website. Here's the function on rollover that I just stole from my website, basically, and planted it in here. As far as interesting things here, I am sharing, if you guys recognize this footer, I'm sharing this with my games, my other video games. It's like, let's say you clicked on that. Now you're playing Texas Hold'em. So that's what this is. And if you want to change, your layout, this is how you would do it here. But or your theme. But this is just some fun stuff. I hope you guys enjoy what I put together. This is a tool that I think could be useful for people who are kind of learning how JavaScript works. And not only that, that's a tool that you could probably use in real time, like as a business. You don't, a lot of banks don't really have these available. So I think it's something that people can not only learn from, but then they also, could utilize as well. Apex has got these free kind of open source charts that I recommend that everybody kind of take a look at. It really improves on the quality of your site if you have some kind of visual charting that helps explain your data more than just reading. Visually, I think people will pick this up faster. I tend to really try to bring home visual effects like charts and graphs. This is a tool everyone could technically use. So I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening.